I had gotten to this point when I had just dropped out of school in my final year, and I was going to go and start all over again from the beginning to write JAM, choose a different course, and it was this very, very emotionally confusing period for me.
There was that period of, what's going to happen to this guy? You know, what would become of him and all of that, but we never gave up.
And I took to writing and I took to poetry pretty heavily in trying to make sense of my situation.
He attended this Nigerian Navy secondary school, so he was a boarder. This was, like a jolly good fellow everybody was fond of, very lively. But somewhere along the line, we started noticing that if he was more into himself, while all of this was going on, he was able to find expression in writing.
We come from dust and fire, a civilization dancing on water and washing its hands in oil. Our technology once commanded groundnuts to the skies, heaven blessing our offerings in 1,000 tongues. We are a nation conceived in promise. My name is Paul Azino. I'm a writer and poet, director of the Lagos International Poetry Festival, creative director, Creative Africa. Poetry for me started from allowing other voices in my head. I've always read. I grew up in a house full of books, and they called out to me from an early age. And I think I got to a point where I started to feel like I could also tell my own stories, and I wanted to tell my own stories. Spots were opening up across the city, and I would make the rounds, across all these different spaces, read and perform, and the acceptance and the fan base just sort of grew from there. And years down the line, I become, more or less like a household name.
When I hear Ife perform, I just feel like if they called together all the people who were alive in Rome and Greek, that they would feel like this man was one of them.
Years ago, when there were just a few of us, he performed the poem, and I said, wow, this guy seems to have something a little bit more than the rest of us. He seems to have something really powerful.
I think without even knowing it, he has somehow gone to the forefront of the marching line by trying to put together the first Lagos International Poetry Festival.
In 2015, we started the Poetry Festival. We had been called by a Dutch organization in partnership with the British Council to run a series of workshops for up-and-coming writers and poets. But we also realized that there was a little gap that we thought we could fill at the level of helping people really focus on craft and build and develop their own voices. Inspired by that, we decided we were going to run a series of workshops, a panel discussion, and an evening of performances. And we thought, let's just run a festival. So we designed the logo, threw it out on social media, and said we were organizing the Lagos International Poetry Festival. We had no funding, nothing. Somewhere along the line, it was picked up by Nigerian breweries and the British Council, who happened to be our very first, one of our first sponsors in 2015, and it's just grown year after year after that.
Having people who understand what it is you're trying to do, who are able to support that, it allows you to go a lot further.
The British Council has been instrumental to all of this, to my career particularly, from running the initial workshop to being sponsors of the festival, creating all this platform really for poetry and for poets and for artists across the city, filling a huge gap.
Ife has done a very, very remarkable job of trying to create a space for poets across the world to come to Nigeria at a particular time and be here for a week, living off poetry, communicating with each other, interacting with new people that you might have just seen online in the first place.
It was an insane thing at that time to decide to be a poet, and not just a poet, a spoken word poet who is professionally one. That means this is your job, this is what you do, but somehow this paid off. Eventually it paid off, and here we are.
The future for LipFest, really, we're expanding. We're starting the Young Writers and Creators Lab, just to bring established writers and artists and creators across the space for young people who are seeking to hone their craft, find their voice. So we're taking the workshop to Lagos, to Abuja, with a strong bias for the north, to Kaduna, to Maiduguri, and to Jos as well. So we're kicking that off in 2019 and expanding it into the future.
Who would have believed that Efe would have with all of those dark periods, you know, come out and turn out to be who he is today, affecting lives that people can look up to and like, wow, so this is Efe. Efe actually, really, sincerely, is a dream come true.